So this is the DC to DC charging cable. So it uses the alternator or car battery to charge the leisure battery. So the first thing I've done is I've taken the cover off of the battery, disconnected the battery, and then I've added an additional terminal with a big chunky wire running to the back of the van. That's in amongst the mess at the back. Here I forgot to mention that there is a fuse there just on the connector. This is the most important thing because we can't have the wire melting and causing a fire, so please don't forget your fuse. This was then put back together and the other end was just left ready to be used at a later date.
Means power.
So we're just making a template for the electricity socket because annoyingly it's that shape. Now we need to get the jigsaw.
Oh, it's all right. Fits in.
Problem is we're very close to that, so let's just get into it.
Can't you use that other one to just make it bigger hole, so it's gonna get.
Now that we cut the metal, the sides are filed and then a little dab of paint is put on there just to protect it. Next we use some glue just to stick the unit into the van, followed by some screws into that piece of wood that is on there. And this is our mains in there. You want to lick that, you get electrocuted. So that's going to be our 240 volts in. So this is the mains in there. It's going to go into the back of a three-way consumer unit. And that's going to split off.
It is going to be like a campsite. You go there and you plug it in.
Yeah, so it will trip if it is dodgy. So we'll put our own trip switch in here as well to stop it from blowing up the electronics. Oh yeah, it's pretty dark in here. Maybe we can just turn on the lights. Thinking that that's actually not that bright. So what's people are doing, put one here, one here, one here, one here, the two in the centre, and then in line with the front of this.
So you want 6?
So we'll put all 6 in because they're not that bright when you look at that. So because we're running all the wiring behind the ceiling, we didn't want to take down the wiring due to a loose connection. So what we've done is we've crudely wired up the battery. Some of it's just twisted together, such as a light switch. Yeah, you break this, the lights go off. That's the light switch, on off. Trying to figure out how it works. So we went through the we found out because we hadn't grounded the chassis, we didn't blow a fuse in this instance, but we're testing the lights and the max fan. But then when we found out that the max fan was connected, we had the positive and negative connected to the battery via a fuse, of course, for safety. We had the lights still connected to the negative, but then when I dropped the wire on the floor, it touched the screw and the lights came on, which I thought was really weird. But the screw was going through the chassis, so what that meant was that the max fan had the live wire was touching the chassis. So the max fan works because it's not grounded. The chassis was not grounded, so it didn't blow the fuse back to the original battery. But the yeah, so that's where we were. So we went through the live wire on our max fan. Means we have lights. And not only lights, but we have dimmable lights. Cinema mode, reading mode.
Please turn on the max fan, honey.
It's on. Come on. So what I've done is I've grounded the vehicle with some grounding cable, basically, some welding cable. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to run a positive and a negative to the charger, and then I'm going to wire in the solar panels. Not as much point 'cause it's raining.
But where did you ground it? From this cable, isn't it? This cable, it went under.
Yeah, I've taken it out underneath and bolted it onto the chassis. So I've grounded to the chassis. Is what I've done with a big fat cable, welding cable.
So one end is underneath of this, another end is here, isn't it?
Yeah, connected to the negative of the battery.
So you connect it to the negative of the battery. So this is the black one.
Yeah, try not to put it around too much.
So this one is gone in where?
That's the negative of the lights.
And this is
Negative of max fan. I've wired up this little switch, which is the solar. You know, we had the solar before. This allows us to turn it on and turn it off.
it's just for solar.
Just for the solar panels, because you can't turn solar off. It's night and day. It turns it off, doesn't it? So when we turn the battery off, before we turn the battery off, we need to turn solar off.
Why you turn the solar off? So you don't get any electricity?
So there's no electric in the circuit. But if you want to do any type of maintenance with the power off, you need to turn the solar off, or else there's power going through everything.
And what are you doing now? Yeah.
This is now a consumer unit. So I'm starting on this side first, I thought. I'm not very good at talking and doing, am I? So I'm starting on this side first, which is the consumer unit. Looks like that. And again, it switches, and then you flip them down when you have power.
So these are for all the electricity we're using.
Yeah, so it'll all be like that, and we're going to have 3 wires coming out the bottom of this. One's going to the inverter, one's going to the charger, and one's going to the heating. Yeah.
So why do you have four button there?
Because one's a main one.
Turn it on and off, whole thing.
So that turns everything off. But these are independent.
Okay.
You'll see that in here. But, this is one thing, and then these are independent. So we have to figure out how to wire this up. So let's try and figure out, following these instructions, where things go. So this is our first wire, which is hook up. So this is the adapter outside, on the outside of the vehicle. You know, the thing you plug into. goes into this wire.
This mains.
Yep, so that's essentially the mains wire. Now this bit, when you're filming, is because I don't have the right tools.
What tools do you need for that?
Big wire cutter, which wire stripper, which we don't have, and this wire is we're using pond cable because the thickness of the outer skin is super chunky. So just to confirm, this is the consumer unit, which is AC mains electric. The van can be plugged into an electric hookup at a campsite to give mains power. This unit is for safety and allows you to flip when there's a short, so like you do have in a house. And then this will be fed into the battery charger, our heating and the inverter in order to give us mains electric and shore power. So there we have it, we have the battery connected. So what I did first was this balance lead again. Before plugging in the balance lead, I went through and checked each of the connections on top of the battery, again against the pins on the balance lead to make sure they're all connected, and then I just plugged in the balance lead into the device, which allows the BMS to power on, and then once powered on I give it one final check, and you'll see on my mobile phone here the battery, and I'm looking at these at the bottom here that you'll see that the balance readings are working, and you can see there's my battery all nicely set and working. Now that the batteries are put together properly, we installed the inverter. That's the big unit there with the 2000W on top. Next to that was the solar charger, which also acts as a DC to DC charger. And this installed in the battery on off. Right, on the negative terminal, the next thing that we fitted was the shunt that you can see I'm fitting here. This device just reads the power coming to and from the battery. It's connected to the negative terminals and is just fastened to the footwell. All power goes through the shunt in order to show how the battery's performing, essentially, whether it's charging or discharging. It also has connections to the positive of the battery, which are via small wires so it can read, as well as temperature, etc. The inverter itself is connected directly to the battery, but through the shunt in this case, and via a fuse. And everything else is connected via the bus bars to the main systems from there. Unfortunately, I didn't take too much filming of the electrics because I was concentrating on putting them together, and I'm not very good at multitasking. This device here that you can see me fitting is the bus bar. This one itself, the black one, is the negative bus bar. We have a positive bus bar and a negative bus bar. This is where most of the electrics are split off of, including this negative grounding. Each of the wires are connected here. As you can see, the chunky wires for the inverter are connected to that. We have a number of switches, trip switches being fitted, as well as the fuses for the devices, because each of the devices needs to have the appropriate fuse to make sure that the system, when it doesn't perform correctly, doesn't burn down your vehicle. I'm using the BMS app. The main thing I'm doing is checking these single voltages down at the bottom here to make sure that they're still registering, because I've taken one of the terminals off. I just want to make sure that that's still working. Yep, and now I can turn on discharge, and then we're going to flick that switch and hope. Right.
So this one, and what else? That other one, is it?
Yeah, so I flick this switch, and the soda's currently off. So flick that one on, and the solar panels should now.
So the solar is on, everything is on now.
No, so it's not on actually. Didn't plug it in. I forgot to plug in the soda. Schoolboy error.
So you turned it on now.
It takes a few seconds to register.
After then we can have some fan, can't we?
No, the fan's not plugged in. There you go.
Sure that.
Yeah, the problem you have is when you push these buttons, sometimes they fail. And now it's charging.
Charging means that
Yeah, you see
this means charging, isn't it?
Yeah, it says charging with little signs. The alternator has been wired in to the solar charger. The solar panels are in. We have a switch for the solar panels. Now we've started to wire up the consumer unit for the AC. And the bus bars are in, and the switches and everything.
Just the inverter?
Yep, so the 2000 watt inverter is on 150 amp breaker, but that's slightly lower than the inverter, so it will protect the inverter, but we don't want ridiculous things on the inverter because of the poor battery. And we've got our little shunt, our smart shunt installed as well.
What does this smart shunt do?
Let's find the screen. So it does screeny stuff.
Oh, it's just monitoring stuff.
Yeah, more monitoring. So more monitoring. So it basically, it's a little processor in here that all the current going back through into the battery passes through here, and it can monitor the positive and the negative. So it's saying that at the moment we're pulling 7 amps just idle. So that's just the Bluetooth module for the energy, so that's why I was getting those readings of the solar.
So you can
So I can use my mobile phone to see what's happening. The alternate is you can plug in like a physical screen there, but I like my apps. So this is the fuse box. So this is going to go probably.
This is 12 volt fuse box.
Yeah. So this has to be connected to here and here. Yeah.
That bus and this bus.
Yeah. It's going to sit like that.
Okay. All the 12 volt stuff will go
And then
there.
all the 12 volt stuff is just going to come straight off of that. So these will just connect to that. And then you've got little fuses in here, and the little fuses protects from from dying.
This small cable.
So negative wire goes here, positive wire goes there. I'm now wiring the fuse box to the main part of the electrics in the van. Note the size of the wires are being connected here. You need larger wires because the current going through the fuse box is split at the point of the fuse box. So there's going to be high current going to the fuse box and then split off to each of the devices where it's divided down. That is very important to know because you always need to choose your wires correctly for the sizes, or else you'll end up with overheating of the wires and possibly fire. What we've just done is I've wired this plug socket into this 230 volt hookup. So we have trip switches. So if we have a short that they should trip, need to label them really. I think that was the one that we wired up. And then I've run a wire from that into the inverter for our pass through. So when we plug into the outside of the van, the little hookup socket, it comes through one of these wires, this wire here, down into the hookup consumer unit, and then goes off into this plug socket and this inverter. And then the inverter has this plug which goes back out past this consumer unit and up into these plugs at the top here. This plug here is directly plugged in, not to the inverter, deliberately, so it'll only work once you have 230 volts. And what we have is a Genius 10, so 10 amp charger, and that's going to sit down here, and then we are going to plug it in to the plug here. So it's just going to sit in that plug, plugged in. Try and take out the wires, and then we're going to run those wires back up to the positive and negative terminals, the output, where these crocodile clips are. So I never learn, but read the manual before you buy these things, because I bought the add-ons, which were the little so we bought this add-on cable separately because it had the little O-rings on it, but the O-rings are on the crocodile clip, so you can just undo them and then keep the crocodile clip separately. The reason for this is because it makes it very easy. The reason for doing this rather than directly wiring it in is it makes it very easy that if our car doesn't start or our van doesn't start, we can just whack the crocodile clips back on, and then we can use it as a car charger. So it means it's very easy to disconnect if we need to. I hope that never happens. Yeah, it might be a little bit dark in here because I've turned off the battery. I've unplugged the battery, and it's ready for putting the flooring down, so the battery's in the way. So I've also just taken the time to tidy up the electrics. One thing we did have is this cable here, you can see it's moving around, was loose, which meant the microwave wouldn't work. So when we the power was working, but where the connection was loose, when it got up to about 80 amps, it the battery cut out and protected itself. It may have been this device or the battery, I'm not sure, one of them, and it cut out the inverter, so the inverter couldn't draw enough power. So what I've done now is I've taken out the battery. I put in another one of these. This is a 200 amp unit, which is there's only going to be 50 amps ever going through that, or about 70 amps max. I couldn't find my 70 amp unit, so I just put the 200 in. But it does have a 65 amp fuse on the other end, at the correct end, so this fuse here is really redundant. But what it does allow me to do is turn on the power. So this is the DC to DC, so this cable here goes down to the car battery, and then it runs across into this device here, which is the charger. So when I turn that on, it will get power, and it's not meant to have power because the battery's not connected, so that's not ideal. So we've rectified that by putting in a switch there so I can turn it on and off. This is the inverter, so the power comes up into this battery connector. You can turn on the battery when it's there. At the moment it's turned off. Right, so the inverter's connected via this. There's also another wire coming up here, the welding wire, and that goes to the main fuse and then to this bus bar, and this bus bar will then spawn off to give positives to everything else, essentially. There will be a third item going into that because we've got a three-way switch there deliberately, the consumer unit, and the third item is going to be the heater element for the hot water. which will be going into that hookup box. So I would say our electrics are pretty much finished here, minus the 230 volt hookup and a few additional plug sockets that need to go in, which will be done after the furniture. They all go down this side of the van. Yep. So we've got this figured out, and we're probably going to put USB socket in the side here and light here, so at night time when it's all dark and you wake up, you can just switch the light on in bed and just get a little bit of light, single light, and that's it really. The main one is getting these switches in, because I want to get the these switches in order to then be able to turn on and off the pump, because I'm fed up of going into the boot to turn it on and off by pulling the cord, pulling the cable, which is essentially what I'm having to do now. So yeah, all good, we're getting there. So we're just now trying to house all the displays. We've got these, and what I've done is I've cut out a piece of wood to go on the front. I cut the holes. This is for the big multi-switch thing. This is for the general battery display. This is for the inverter. Got this little hole here for DC heater, because the cable just comes through and it clips onto the front. But I don't have the right size hole cutter for this. Mine's slightly too big, and rather than going to buy one, I've just measured around them, and I'm going to try and cut them out. Hopefully it's not going to be a complete disaster, but we'll see. Oh yeah, so we've got the control panel fitted, which we were talking about, and here it is. So this allows us to turn on and off individual items, as you can hear.
So that's fridge. You turn that off. What is that first one?
This is the water pump, which you can hear is going mad because we've got no water. This is the fridge, I think, is it?
Yeah.
And this is the fan.
And these two?
These two do nothing, I believe. No.
Okay.
So they're just independently wired up. We have the control panel for the battery. This is the inverter.
What battery? The solar battery.
So this is the main. This is the main battery. So the battery, which is under the bed here, which you'll see. This battery down here. Which is hard to see because it's dark. So this is the leisure battery, and at the moment we can say we're pulling 5 amps. The reason why we're putting 5 amps is I just turned on the heating because it's cold. If I turn that off, we'll see this drop. So this is just controls the gives us indication of what's happening in the van. These two are the water tanks. So when I push this button, it activates the circuit, and we can see we've got a tiny little bit of grey water and no fresh water.
Which is right, isn't it?
And this here is our gas. It says it's empty, which we need to troubleshoot a bit further.
And then at the top one?
And on the top one here, this button here, when you push this on, turns on the inverter. You see the lights flash as it turns it on, and that's just turned on our microwave here when I turn that on. If you have any questions, then please let us know. We're always happy to help, and I hope it inspires you to build your van, because it's been a great project and it's still ongoing, forever ongoing.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching.